Welcome back to DSR, and I am doing a build on the Battlesmith Artificer, and this will be the last build I'm going to do as a direct result of that new book that came out, Eberron, Forge of the Artificer. And as I said previously, there are 5 species and 5 subclasses, so I decided to go ahead and do 1 species from the book per subclass from the book. So this is going to be the Changeling Battlesmith, which is a combo I probably never would have done had this not been a restriction I imposed upon myself, and it actually turned out to be, I think, fun. And this is going to be an interesting build, and it's going to be my first multi-class build. So, but I think it's still pretty practical, pretty straightforward, and easy to use. And real quick, I am trying to get 2,000 by the end of the year, and we started this month off at 1,800, and getting real close here. I think we started this month at 1,800. We're pretty close there, but more than halfway to the 2,000 mark, and only about halfway through the month. So appreciate everybody's support, and if you like this kind of content, want to support it, yeah, I would appreciate a like and subscribe. As I mentioned, this is going to be a frontliner build. So the job of frontliners is to do good single target melee damage. They should have good survivability, as in they can take some hits. Not that they're trying to be targeted, but if they do get hit, they're not going to crumple, okay? And as I said, they are ambivalent about targeting. They are neither trying to attract it nor avoid it, but they are supposed to be built to be able to take some. And your classic frontliners are your barbarian, paladin, fighter, and monk. These are just the stereotypes. That is not the only way to build these. And if you play those classes, you're not required to be a frontliner. Just make sure you communicate with the rest of the group about what your intended role is. Because if you don't tell them, they're going to assume, and you play one of those classes, they're going to assume you are a frontliner. And I think this one is a good example of how you can take any class and turn it into any role if you want. So we're going to have an Artificer frontliner. As I mentioned, I'm using the Changeling species. So here in the book, Eberron, Forge of the Artificer, this is the info they have on the Changeling. It's a pretty cool art, very minimal kind of lore stuff. And this is all repeated from Eberron Rising from the last war. And I actually thought this part about personas was new, but now that I went back and read that, it is not new at all. I just didn't catch it before. There's our Changeling traits, but let's jump over to Eberron Rising from the last war, where we can get more information on the changelings. So here there is an interesting story about the changelings, myth, like origin myth for the changelings, which is pretty cool. It talks about, there was a woman who had a bunch of children, 100 children. People were, conspiring against her children. She was worried about her children's safety, so she begged for help. None of the gods responded until one, the traveler, took her hand and said, "I'll protect your children if they follow my path. Let them wander the world. They may be shunned and feared, but they will never be destroyed." She agreed, and then her children became the changelings, okay? So they can hide and not be destroyed. And the traveler is one of the Dark Six gods. So that's an interesting one. So I'm actually going to use that for the faith. And there, unfortunately, in this book, in neither of these books, there is very little information on the traveler from Eberron. Now, that's not the same as a traveler from Critical Role. There's a lot of information, a lot of info on that one. I just didn't have info on this version of this god, who's a different god, the traveler, and kind of has a negative aspect to it. It's a lot like the traveler from Critical Role, but that one seems like it has a more positive spin. Yeah, it's it's like a trickster and fun-loving, but it's like kind of got this good bent, and or at least the way that Jester's playing it. In Eberron, the trickster's got kind of a negative, dark vibe to it, but still very similar in that it's all about change and experiencing things new, and literally traveling to experience new things. So I think it'll be an interesting opportunity here for role play, and I am excited to play this character if I ever get the chance. They talk a little bit more about the idea of the personas, and so what I decided for this character is that I'm not going to fill out the personality section. Rather, what I would do is, if I was going to play this in a campaign, I would build out 3 or 4 personalities for this character. And it was just too much to go through and there's nowhere to put them in D&D Beyond. So I'm just going to leave it blank, but I'd give a high level. And what I would do is probably something like one of the personas would be like a father figure type person. One would be a mother figure, because of the way that people respond to those kind of characters different, or those kind of identities differently. And this character is going to be very much, I don't know, a spy, a diplomat. I think more diplomat than spy is where I'm going for. And so having those different identities do affect how people respond to you. and I want to lean into that for the diplomat, right? Depending on who you're interacting with, this person would change into something that that person that you need to negotiate with is going to respond really well to. So that's it. Yeah. So a father figure, mother figure, some kind of like, and then two younger ones, maybe both in male and a female as well. Maybe different, a variety of species, like some tieflings, an elf. I would just start developing all these personalities. I don't know that I would pre-develop all of them. I would probably do pre-develop 3 or 4 personas and let the rest emerge during the campaign, because that's just a lot of work. One, but two, you don't want to like paint yourself into a corner with all these personas. You want to, and the identity of your character, and that's just general rules. Like, don't paint yourself into a corner with your the identity and backstory of your character before you start the campaign, right? You want to leave plenty of room so that this thing can develop into different ways depending on what happens in the campaign. And as far as names, they got this cool idea about the true names of changelings tend to be simple and monosyllabic. However, there are often accents to a changeling's name that are expressed through shape-shifting, okay? Which I thought was very cool. Something that single skins will likely miss. And single skins are what the changelings call people who can't shapeshift, so the non-changelings. So two changelings might have the name Jin, but one of them is Jin with vivid blue eyes, and one is Jin with golden nails. And so I like that a lot. And I like the name Jin, partly I think because I like Rogue One, and Jin Urso is the main character of Rogue One, and I really liked that character. So we're gonna go with Jin, just right out there, and will be Jin with vivid blue eyes. Will be our true identity of our changeling form. Um, and if she meets another changeling, or he or she, I guess they don't really have they're literally gender fluid. Um, if she meets another, I'll just say she. If she meets another changeling, and she says her name is Jin, the other changeling will say, well, Jin who? Because I know a lot of Jins, and then she will change her eyes to vivid blue, and then the other changeling will know that you're Jin with vivid blue eyes. So very cool idea. I like that, and I hope that would come up in a campaign. And I would probably talk to the DM and say, hey, can you make sure that we run into another changeling so that I can role play that moment? That's a great kind of stuff to talk to your DM about and have them help you lean into the role play that you're trying to execute with this, which will be fun for everybody at the table. The faith for this character is going to be the Traveler, which is one of the Dark Six. So here in Eberron Rising from the last war, we can see a page or so of information on the Dark Six. The Traveler is one of them. And here is all of the info in this book about the Traveler, which is the Traveler asserts that chaos drives evolution, and that change makes us stronger, which is fair points. The Traveler is a trickster and a giver of dangerous gifts. Some artificers worship the Traveler, seeing it as the Lord of innovation, but the gifts of the Traveler always have unexpected consequences. So there's a little bit of a negative spin on it. Dark spin, I guess. I don't know. If somebody can let me know if there's an official source with more information on the Traveler, I would love to read that. Even if it's not super, even if it's like Dungeon Masters Guild or the DM's Guild, yeah, send me a link to that. I would love to get some more information on the Traveler, because that one is very interesting to me. Getting into the build, you can see that this is a multi-class. And as I said, this is my first multi-class that I'm doing on the channel. This is not my first multi-class build. This is just the first one I'm doing on the channel. And that's because my goal at the channel is to try to make D&D more accessible to more people, lower the barrier to entry, lower the paperwork overhead of crunching the numbers and demystifying, the rule interactions, so that it's a little more straightforward for people, so that they can focus more on having fun and a little less on trying to figure out, the nuances of the mechanics and things like that. And multi-classing just complicates things. So I'm generally shying away from multi-classing with builds on my channel. There's nothing wrong with multi-classing though, so don't feel like I'm saying that multi-classing is bad at all. Okay, but in this case, it just made a lot of sense to multi-class. Being a changeling, I think just makes a ton of sense to, we're going to lean in to be the face role of the party, and that's hard to do as an artificer. Okay, so I'm going to leverage multi-classing so that we can do that better. But also, the other reason that I feel good about doing multi-classing with this build specifically is there is a change to the artificer that I wanted to showcase with this build. And I think a lot of people I didn't notice this, so I wanted to call it out. The change is this right here, which is when you start as a different class and later multi-class to Artificer, you gain a proficiency in one skill of your choice from the Artificer skill list. This is not unique, but it is strange because the other classes that can do this are the Bard, Ranger, and Rogue, right? The Bard, Ranger, and Rogue all do the same thing, where if you multi-class to those later, you pick up a skill proficiency. Now, this thing that's strange about the Artificer getting that is that with those other 3 classes, the Bard, Ranger, Rogue, is that they start with 3, or in the case of Rogue, 4 skill proficiencies, and so then multi-classing to them makes a lot of sense, giving you another skill proficiency. Like, that just makes sense because they had one, and that's one of the things you're picking up. The Artificer does not. The Artificer starts with 2 proficiencies, and you only get that third if you multi-class to it later, which is strange, okay? But interesting. And we're also going to pick up proficiency with Tinker's Tools, which, as an Artificer, we're going to want to have. So I'm only going to go 1 level of Rogue, and we're going to go 19 levels of Artificer, or at least that's the way I'm building this. Go ahead and change whatever you like. So 1 level of Rogue, and we're going to take Perception, Acrobatics, and Stealth, and Sleight of Hand, because starting with Rogue gives us 4 skill proficiencies. So we're going to take all those things that we would mostly couldn't access as an Artificer. You can get Perception and Sleight of Hand, but we had other things covered, so I didn't need those. So we're going to pick up Stealth and Acrobatics, just because we're going to have a decent Dexterity score, and those are good to have. More importantly, we're getting Persuasion, Expertise with Persuasion and Insight, which we really need to be good at the face roll, because our Charisma score is only going to be a 12. And then the other things that are interesting here, some of the reasons I went with Rogue over something like a Bard or something like that, is specifically so that we could get those expertise from 1 level. Not the Thieves' Cant, we don't care about that, but also weapon mastery. So we're going to get the Vex weapon masteries with a dart or a rapier, which is going to help us a lot. Then we're going to switch, and from then on, be straight Artificer the rest of the way. We're going to pick up 1 more. This is the bonus skill proficiency we get for multi-classing into Artificer. So we're going to get the Arcana proficiency. We're going to do our Replicate Magic item, or get Replicate Magic item. We're going to learn the plan's Smoldering Half Plate, and it does seem, I was kind of wondering about this, but the way D&D Beyond enforces it, it does seem that when you choose a Replicate Magic item plan, if it's armor, you pick the armor right then. When you learn the plan, you pick the armor that you're going to apply this plan to, not just the enchantment. Same thing with weapons. You can't just say a +1 any weapon is the plan. The plan is Rapier +1. All right. We're also going to have Flying Wonder and Bag of Holding, but we're not going to use those yet. We're only going to be using the Half Plate and the Rapier, so we're going to be a decent Frontliner. Yes, we're a Battlesmith as our subclass. That gives us Tools of the Trade, which is nice. And then we get our Steel Defender and our Battlesmith spells. The spells are one of the best parts of this whole subclass. We get Shield and Heroism. Heroism I like, because if you upcast it, you can put it on additional targets. So we can upcast that and put it on ourselves and the Steel Defender, giving both of us renewing temporary hit points, which both of us will really enjoy, okay? And that's if we are in a kind of a situation where we need to be defensive, right? Maybe there's a lot of monsters, we're taking a lot of damage, and rather than spending our spell slots to increase our damage, we're going to use our spell slots to keep us alive and hope that our backline allies can deal enough damage to take them out. And then we'll use Shield to help with that too, because Shield is a great spell. Later on, we're going to leverage, right, of course, Conjure, Barrage in our spell storing item. We're going to put that on our Homunculus. And then the Steel Defender, which is our other, central piece of our subclass. This thing's awesome. And it's kind of a cool little synergy there. We're always going to have an ally within 5 feet of our target by just having our Steel Defender always run up to that target. Whether it is going to attack or not, have it run up there just to be next to it to ensure that we always can trigger our sneak attack. It's a 1d6 on our sneak attack, but it's like 2.3 to 3 DPR per round. It's not nothing. So if you wanted to go deeper into Rogue, that works great with the Steel Defender. Get a little more damage. Your Steel Defender is not going to have as many hit points, but maybe that's okay. Going over here to our background, I decided for our background with what I wanted to do, and this mainly was kind of driven by what I wanted for ability score increases. Because there wasn't a lot of ability or feats that I cared about, and I mainly just wanted to raise all of our stats as fast as I could. So I came in here, and with backgrounds, I just filtered this down to say, all right, what background is going to give me dexterity, constitution, and intelligence? Okay, so you filter it so I filtered it like this, and this is literally how I build characters. I've been using this spreadsheet for myself for a long time because it just makes this easier. And I decided the Molorandi Tomb Raider, which is going to give us a lucky feat, which is great. We're going to leverage that in our build, help us get advantage on our attack rolls before Vex is going, so you just always have advantage. But it also gives us Dexterity, Constitution, Intelligence. And so we're just going to take a +1 on all of those for our ability score choices, because the Artificer benefits from all of those. And of course, our species is Changeling. So I'm going to set our size to medium because, as I've mentioned many times, I prefer to be medium sized. But we can, when we shapeshift, change our size, which means we can have halfling personas, gnome personas. We can then be large, medium sized, large for humanoid, but medium sized creatures like a Goliath. So we can have personas for Goliaths and anything else, right? Tieflings, elves, all of those things. So that's great. For Changeling Instincts, we're going to choose Insight and Persuasion, the two best face skills. And those are the ones we got expertise in as well, which is awesome. With that background in this species, this is kind of developing into maybe a bit more of a Indiana Jones meets diplomat kind of character, a mashup of both of those things, which I think is cool. So I'm excited to play this if I ever get to play as a player. 99% of the time I'm playing D&D, it's as DM. But I think this would be a cool character to develop. So our inventory, just take like your standard equipment minus the armor because and the weapon, because we're going to use our replicate magic items for those. That's going to be, our rapier +1 and our smoldering half plate. Upgrade those as you go to keep our AC really good for our level and our ability to attack good. Everything else is normal. I did do my little trick there. If you add a bag of holding to your character sheet, rename it to Steel Defender, change its carrying capacity to the creature's carrying capacity, which for a Steel Defender is 210 pounds. And then, we can load it up with stuff and save ourselves like the tent, right? You got to have a tent if you're out hunting relics, right? But we don't have a very high strength score, so we can't carry that much. So let's put it on the Steel Defender, which has almost double the strength, the carrying capacity that we have. So that's our items. As far as the background goes, as I mentioned, I'm not going to fill most of this out, and I would instead develop multiple personalities, personas that we switch between. And I would use my standard approach of for each one of these personas, I would look up what I think might be a relative, relevant background from one of the older versions, because those have all these suggestions for personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws. They stopped doing that a couple of years ago, which I think is a tragedy because it's good stuff. So I'd look those up and create these personas. But the faith will be the traveler. Now, that doesn't mean in every persona that's going to be their faith, right? One might, maybe the father figure is pretending to be a paladin of the silver flame. And that one will espouse this faith of the silver flame, right? For the persona. But you're acting a role, you're being another person, but your true faith is really the traveler. Your alignment might even change based on these personas, which I think would be a very cool thing to lean into. We've got a lot of skill proficiencies to expertise, insight, and persuasion, so we're a pretty good skill character. Let's look at the rest of the build though. So as far as combat strategy goes, you just run in to the front line with you and your Steel Defender. Make sure your Steel Defender is always near you. If you get attacked, have it use its defensive ability to give disadvantage on that attack, just to help you, help a few more attacks miss you at level 5. And these notes, unfortunately, you can't see them unless you copy the character sheet and make a duplicate of in your own D&D Beyond, and then these notes will show up for you. But as long as the character sheet is owned by someone else, you can't see the notes. It's unfortunate. Level 5, I'm just going to take an ASI to raise our intelligence to 18. That leaves us behind, so we're kind of behind on intelligence until we get to level our intelligence modifier until we get to level 5. You'll see that in the DPR calculations. Level 6 now, we're going to get the Homunculus Servant, and a lot of stuff is the same. It's just shifted by one level because we started as a rogue. Then the standard, get a replicate magic item when we are Artificer level 6, character level 7, Wand of Magic Missiles to give to our Homunculus to raise its damage. Level 9, we're going to get our second feat, and that's just going to be another +2 to our intelligence, raise our intelligence to 20 at level 9. Level 11, when we are rogue, Artificer 10, of course, we're going to use one of our replicate magic items now to create a Flying Wonder. Level 12, which is Artificer 11, we create our spell storing item, give it to the Homunculus, have the Homunculus give the Wand of Magic Missiles to the Flying Wonder, and now the Flying Wonder is weaponized with a wand of magic missiles, and our Homunculus is just firing off all kinds of, Conjure barrages. Level 13, when we get our third feat, at this point, our intelligence is maxed, and I just went with, you know what, let's raise our dexterity. This is one of those rare cases where it makes sense to get medium armor master, which is kind of why I went this direction. Because you don't want to go medium armor master if dexterity is your primary score, because then your dexterity is going to be 20, and you're better off just doing like studded leather or serpent scale armor if you have access to medium armor. And this character, dexterity is beneficial. We're going to have a 14 dexterity, but our primary ability score is intelligence. That's what we're attacking with. So it's kind of the right scenario for, okay, it makes sense for us to get medium armor master because we're going to benefit from a +3 to our dexterity, a +3 dexterity mod. So yeah, and our mental saving throws aren't going to be great. I mean, our intelligence saving throws going to be good, but that's the least common of all the saving throws. So we want to buff the other one. So we're going to get Mage Slayer as our third feat at level 13. Just so we get that legendary resistance versus mental saving throws once per short rest. Level 15, which is now Artificer 14, we're going to use our replicate magic item to get Cube of Force. We probably by now have some extra wands of magic missiles that we found or crafted, whether it's through a bastion or our own downtime. It's only 10 days of downtime to create one and 200 gold pieces. So surely we have a couple extra wands of magic missiles. So we're going to take one of those replicate magic items, the one that we were using for our wand of magic missiles, and switch it to a domestic wonder. And now we take those extra wands of magic missiles that we have laying around. We're going to give one to the flying wonder, give one to the domestic wonder. Both are weaponized, increasing our DPR. And we're going to finish off at level 17, where we're Artificer 16 with medium armor master, rounding our dexterity score up to 16. Now we get a benefit from that, raising our armor class by one more. So we're going to have a really great armor class. All right, let's crunch some numbers, huh? So at level 4, we are going to be behind the other ones on our ability score modifier for our attacks because we multiclassed, which is the downside of multiclassing, especially before level 5. But yeah, so we still have a DPR 14.7. We are leveraging our lucky feat to give us advantage on the first attack of the round as often as we can. It's only 2 right now, but every time we can use lucky, we're going to use one of the luck points to give us advantage. So we start off with advantage and then hopefully get the advantage train going because we've got Vex. So after we hit, we now have perpetual advantage as long as we keep attacking that same target. Sneak attacks giving us a little bit of DPR, and our Steel Defender is contributing as well to a decent amount. So 5.5 DPR from the Steel Defender, which makes this of all these builds, all these Artificer builds, this has the best DPR at level 4 despite having the lower intelligence modifier. Level 5, we now get our intelligence modifier. We're now caught up on our intelligence modifier, which helps things a little bit. It increases our DPR by 6 to 16.7. At level 6, we finally get our extra attack, which we're one level behind on getting because of the multi-classing. That raises our DPR, plus the fact that we're going to have a Homunculus servant now, raises our DPR to 33.3. Level 11, remember, we're Rogue 1, Artificer 10, so at this level, we don't have access to our SSI yet, so we're going to be behind most of the others on our DPR. But we are Artificer 10, so we can create another replicate magic item. And so we're going to have our Homunculus servant with the wand of magic missiles helping with DPR. We're going to have more spell slots, so we're going to be spending all of our spell slots, second and third level spell slots, on Shining Smite. And you can actually see we use a little bit of Shining Smite when we were level 6. That helped to raise our DPR as well. But now we've got third level spell slots, so we're spending all of our second and third level spell slots on Shining Smite, giving us advantage more often, but also more importantly, giving advantage to our Steel Defender and our Homunculus servant when it's not using magic missiles, because those automatically hit. Level 12, we finally are Artificer 11. We have our spell storing item. We put Conjure Barrage in it, of course. That's the best thing to put in it. And now we're going to hand the wand of magic missiles over to our flying wonder, so it's weaponized. We've got another spell slot, and things are really coming together. Our DPR is 61.9, so a big jump from level 11. Most of that is the Conjure Barrage. And level 17, we are Artificer 16, Rogue 1. Rogue 1. And now we have 6 luck points, which means most of the time we're going to have advantage because we're going to use that when we don't have advantage on the first attack. Then we're going to use Vex and have advantage on all the rest of our attacks, and Shining Smite to continue to give us advantage. The Steel Defender is still having advantage. It's capped out at its maximum damage of 1d8 plus 7. It does have the advantage of when it uses its reaction to block an attack against us, that it automatically does 1d4 plus our intelligence modifier of damage, which I didn't factor in here, but maybe I should have to give it just another little boost. There's no save or attack roll for that. It just automatically happens. So that would be another, 7.5 DPR, because you are pretty likely to get attacked every round. I don't know. That's the part where I wasn't sure how I'd calculate that. I haven't decided how often a frontliner who's not trying to tank is going to be attacked. But if you're a frontliner, pretty likely you're going to be attacked once per round, I guess. We have more spell slots. We have 4th level spell slots, not 5th level spell slots yet. So we're going to be using Shining Smite for our 5th level spell slots, although we probably should switch to our Staggering Smite, which is the same damage, I think. Yeah, it's the same damage, Staggering Smite, but the stun condition is a lot better than making somebody just glow, and it gives everyone advantage to attack them as well. So yeah, we might as well switch that. Damage calculation is all the same though. So we do end with a DPR of 73.4, and that's using our Domestic Wonder with Wand of Magic Missiles, our Flying Wonder with Wand of Magic Missiles, our Homunculus Servant with Conjure Barrage, our Steel Defender, not counting its reaction attack. You know what? Let's add that in. Let's see what happens with our DPR if we add that in, assuming we get attacked at least once per round. Yeah, I added that in, and wow, as I was looking that up, I realized I forgot to add in Arcane Jolt. Okay, so let's go back and add in Arcane Jolt. So here we have it right at level 9, Artificer 9 now. So that's going to contribute to our damage at level 11, which gives us a 48.4. It's adding 4.2 DPR. Not bad. I mean, Arcane Jolt should be a lot stronger or have more uses or something, but not bad. 4.2 at level 12 still, and at level 17, we're now Artificer 16, which means we've got the 15th level ability for Improved Defender, which means our Arcane Jolt doubled to 4d6, so now it's bringing in 8.5 DPR. And the Steel Defender's Deflect attack is giving a solid 7.5 DPR because there's no chance to miss, there's no chance to save, and as long as somebody attacks us once per round, it just deflects and automatically causes that damage. So 7.5 DPR, that's almost as much as the Arcane Jolt is contributing. I was shocked by that, but that's the math. There you go. So we're coming in at 89.4 DPR. And with those two, the Arcane Jolt, adding that in because I almost missed it, and Deflect Attack, this came in at the #1 damage dealer of every Artificer subclass build I've done, even though we're a Changeling and we have multiclassed. Although that multiclass, right, Sneak Attack, 1d6 of Sneak Attack is adding 3.6 DPR. So if we didn't have that, we would be behind the Cartographer Sabine in their DPR calculation. And this one is still beating the Artillerist, which came in at 85.6 at level 17. Vishara, I moved this to the healer category. I did have her, grouped under range. This just because where I did the math, but it didn't make sense that I kept having to explain it every time. So I put it to the correct category of what she was built for, which is she's a healer. So then you know that she was built as a healer, and she's still coming in with a DPR 48.2 at level 17, so not bad at all. And like I said, she's not using a single spell slot to boost her DPR. She's saving all of that for buffing and healing. So if you just want to use a few spell slots to deal damage, her damage will go way up. Then we have Belarith, the tank, who's coming in at 66.8 DPR. Awesome for a tank. And yeah, we've got 2 frontliners, Hammer the tank, coming in at 79.5 DPR. And then this one winning, the Battlesmith wins. So this is the, best subclass for Artificer still. And that is the Battlesmith, coming in at 89.4 DPR. And this one is also a great face of the party. They've got expertise in Insight and Persuasion, which is going to give them, like, at this level, a plus 13 on those checks. And that's if you don't have like a Luck Stone, which is going to give you another plus 1. I love Luck Stones because they boost your initiative and all of your ability checks. I don't know. So yeah, plus 13 on those. And if we really want to make sure that we're going to like crush it at a social encounter, cast Enhance Ability on yourself for Wisdom, because we already have perpetual advantage on our charisma checks. So now we're going to have advantage on the wisdom checks, which includes insight and advantage on all of our charisma checks. So we're just going to crush all of the, with the plus 13 on both of those, all of those social encounters. So this is going to be a great character for social encounters, crazy DPR, strong frontliner with like an AC of like 23 plus the shield spell, just ridiculous. And it starts off the best class, the best of these builds too, with a 14.7 DPR, because you get a lot. I mean, that sneak attack from our 1 level dip and rogue, plus Vex from that weapon mastery in that 1 dip and rogue, plus Steel Defender. Yeah, this is a solid build. I think, and easy to use. Like, you just let 1 level in rogue and then go all the way to level 19 levels in Artificer. Make sure we get our epic boon, get all of our maximum spell slots we can get out of it, get our 6 attunement slots, and the 20th level. The only thing you get at 20th level as an Artificer is your Soul of Artifice feature. You don't even get another spell slot. And the Soul of Artifice is not, in my opinion, is not a great capstone. I don't even think it's middle of the pack. I think it's pretty disappointing. The best part of it is being able to gain all of your Flash of Geniuses back on a short rest, which you may never use all of those, right? You're going to get 1 back already on a short rest. Do you need all of them back on a short rest? Probably not. But yeah, you're going to use your Flash of Genius to help you in social encounters too. So you're just going to be the best at social encounters. Just really, really, really good. Advantage, plus 13, and Flash of Genius when you need it for another plus 5. You're never going to fail a insight or persuasion check. And I think this is a great build. I think it would be a lot of fun to play. I hope I get to play it someday. I think I can't decide which of these I'm most excited about, but I'm pretty excited about all of these builds. And frankly, whenever I do a build, I'm pretty excited about it by the time I'm done with it. So there probably isn't a build that I'm not excited to play. I don't know. But thanks for watching. Remember to be cool when you play D&D with other people, because these people are your friends, or they could become your friends, right? Catch you next time.